aba ministry bategeezanga kampuni ezimu ezisuubula ettaka bwe zigufudde omuze okunyigiza abagulako ettaka era nga waliwo abanoonyerezebwako. Era wano kwe kulangirira nti waliwo enkola empya ministry gyegenda okuteekawo okuziyiza kampuni zino okubba abantu.
Natera ogenda kati mu bantu carrying out stakeholder consultations tusobole okufuna ate ebiteeso n'ebirowoozo ebirungi okuva eri abantu.
Abantu bangi abeyongera okwekubira endulu mu bitongole ebikuuma eddembe olw'emivuyo egiri ku ttaka. Kimuli Ivan Kigozi, NTV akawungezi.
NTV akawungezi nga bwena kutegeezeza mu kusooka tugenda kuba tukuleetera akanyomero wetwogerera ku nsonga ez'enjawulo naddala ezo ezinyiga bannayuganda nga twogera n'abo abakwatibwako ensonga. Olwaleero nga bw'olabye tulina Emilian Kaima omwogezi w'ekitongole kya poliisi ekikola ku nsonga z'ebyettaka. Nkwaniriza nnyo afande.
Nsanyusa okubeera
ensonga oziwulidde abantu bakaaba ettaka lifuuse ettaka. Kiki ensonga lwaki eganye ng'ate amateeka bakagalongosaamu?
Amateeka weegali era gakola bulungi naye bangi mu bannayuganda bebakyakwata obujega kubanga abantu bagadde nnyo ssente ne beerabira empisa nansangu ezaffe nga nti osobola okukola ssente nga tobye bantu nga bwe twalaze eggulo aba Ozana n'abalala bangi benyigidde mu mivuyo gino. Bannayuganda bakaabizibwa Kairegombe olw'ensonga nti bangi baagala kufuna ssente ne bekwasa obusongasonga obutaliimu ti ebyapa birwayo ti abantu tetunaba kubasetoringa naye nga ssente zaabwe mwazitwala. Lwaki muzitwala? Lwaki temusooka ne mukolako kimu ne muzzaako ekirala? Ekyo no tulooza nti buli yake ate bugenze bweyongera. Empisa eŋŋundivu ezaffe ez'edda ndowooza zigenze zifa, abantu batunuulira nnyo ssente. Engeri gye bazikolamu si ensonga. N'olwekyo naffe ne tuvaayo ne tugamba nti omulimu gwaffe okwasa amateeka kwabo ababa bagamenye era nga amateeka bwe gatulagira. Era kati bangi bali mu kutya ate bannayuganda bangi okuba lwe twayogedde ku nsonga zino bangi nnyo beeyongedde okujja nga baga nti naffe twafa dda ate baadde tebazoogerako. Kati ne weewuunya lwaki mufa kisiiri ne mutavaayo ng'obudde bukyali.
Tukubira ekifaananyi mu lunaku oba mu wiiki mufuna emisango gyenkana gitya obungi
emisango mingi nnyo. Nze tulakibuli awali headquarters zaffe ekitebe ekikulu n'emisango gye tufuna singa okyalayokko giringa kiliniki nga mulago bw'ogiraba. Kati bangi abajja nga ye bimusobedde, batono nnyo abajja nga bagamba nti twagala kugula ne twandikoze magezi ki bo bajje ekintu kimaze okusajjuka. N'emisango mingi nnyo ku lunaku tusobola okufuna abantu abajja abawera 30 ate yo headquarter yokka nga ate tulina decentralization nti buli police station weeri waliwo desk ekola ku nsonga z'ettaka. Kati abajja ewaffe ng'oluusi bibasobedde ne bagamba nti aka tugende eri mu bakulu ne bajja ne mubawuliriza ne mubaluŋŋamya ekyetaaga emisango egyaffe okukolako ne tugikolako, kiteetaaga gyaffe ne tubategeeza nti guno ojja kgenda mu kooti eri ey'engassi ate abamu ne bataagala kimatira olwokubanga nti kooti ey'engassi erwisaawo naye ate gyegenda okukuwa kyosaba.
Ebiseera ebisinga bwe batera okubayo ne bagamba poliisi ekolagana n'abapettaka si kyekyo. Ebiseera ebisinga abantu abasinga okunyigirizibwa be baba wansi tebatera nnyo okumanya ki ekigenda maaso amateeka gakola gatya. Omuntu waba agula ettaka oba ng'atunda naddala babatunda mitendera ki gy'alina okugobera amanya atya mbu kati ssaawa eno balabika banfera?
Ekisookera ddala kituufu abasinga okunyigirizibwa bannamwandu, abaana abato abalekebwawo bakitaabwe bali bannyaabwe, abakadde n'abatasomye abangi ennyo. Ate abantu bannayuganda kinuma benyumiriza nnyo ne mubutamanya naife amateeka tetugamanyi badaalimba budaalimi nga babbi bababba. Mitendera ki gye waali badde oyitamu? Ekisooka waali badde okola okunoonyereza ettaka lye ngenda okugula bwe liba lya kyapa kitegeeza nti waliwo block number ne plot number. Genda mu ministry kubanga agenda okuguza akuga nti nja kuguza plot eno eri block eno eri plot eno gwekkiriza mpa photocopy y'ekyapa kyo gwogende mu ministry okole kye bayita search osasula omutwalo ogwo gumu n'oleeta receipt mu ministry ne bakkeberera. Ekyo kimu. Ekyokubiri physical search, genda ku ttaka lyennyini bagenda okuguza lirabe nti oba weeriri teririiko nkaayana teririiko bantu balituddeko kuba oyinza okuba nga olina ekyapa kyesukwe ya mairo namba
ebyo bimanya kwani ngenda wa eros oba batuze
kikulu okugenda mu bukulembeze obuliwo ne mu bantu banja batunda ettaka ekyo bakimanyi era bakutwala ne bwe bakutwala balina akakodyo nga bataddewo abaabwe abamu bakadde abantu bakulu bakitiibwa n'obabuuza ne baga nti ekintu kiri mulala kike era tekuli bantu
akadde mwami Kayima kalabika katuliridde empiiga naye tuli kuzoolala n'oyongera okutangaza ku nsonga y'ettaka kuba yo erabika nnene ate ekutte wansi ne waggulu tusimye nnyo webale nnyo okutuyungako abadde Emilian Kayima ayogerera ekitongole kya poliisi eky'ebyettaka NTV akawungeezi kyagenda mu maaso naye nga situnawo mulamu soka tulabe ministry y'ebyobulamu erangiridde nga ekirwadde ky'omusujja gwa mulalama oba meningitis bwe kibaluseewo mu district omuli Adjumani, Arua, Koboko ne Maracha. Abantu 31 be bakwatiddwa ekirwadde kino naye nga ministry nakakasa oba waliwo afudde. Ekirwadde wabula kisinga mu district omuli Arua ne Adjumani. Kinajjukirwa nti mu district zino waliwo Abasudan bangi abaddukira muno nga beewala olutalo olubadde lugenda mu maaso mu South Sudan. Dakiika ziri 15 ziise ku ssaawa emu temuvaawo katuumulemu katono ddala bino bye bimu ku biri mu kitundu ekyokubiri. Ente zeefuze ebibiina by'essomero e Mayuge kati abayizi basomera bweru. Katembe Iganga owa taxi atadde amagulu mu steering ya mmotoka gamumyuse abadde balama misolo.
Olugero lwa leero lukutuusibwako Movit All Day Confidence.
Kale okumutta ziba zigasibwa ki? Olugero lukwata ku bantu aboonoona emirimu oba amaka g'abakama baabwe ne batamanya nti nabo baba beeyonoonedde.
Pride is your beautiful hair.
They are all winners. With Movit No Best, you can also be a winner.
Movit All Day Confidence.
No, bruh, you have to control your mind. That's how a man was created.
Men and women are different. We go into relationships for many reasons.
Me, if you're a chick, I don't want to get pregnant, this is locking it down.
Someone could...
Family, he's great in bed. This is going to make my friend go to my man.
When the marriage is actually a marriage of convenience.
It is not necessary that when you put together with someone, when someone is forced on you, love will grow.
If you've fallen in love with somebody and it's working for you, marry them.
Men, every Wednesday at only on NTV.
NTV akawungeezi Central Police Station wano mu Kampala eriko abasajja bana beegombyemu obwala ng'ebalumiriza okufuula obubbi bw'emmotoka omulimu. Poliisi egamba nti abakwatiddwa basangiddwa n'emmotoka 7 ate yo emyanzi mu disitulikiti y'e Mubende amasasi ganyoose nga poliisi egumbulula abatuuze ababadde bakyankalanye olw'ekkubo ebbi.
Abasajja bano okuli Medi Lukwago, Godfrey Kisitu, David Ntale ne Simon Gayi. Poliisi egamba nti erudde ng'ebayiga olw'obubbi bwa mmotoka.
Abakwatiddwa babadde beeyambisa obukodi bwa mirundi 2 akamu nga kugenda ne bafuna kopi z'ebisumuluzo by'emmotoka nga babijja ku mmotoka gye zisula bw'oba bavuga batuuka awantu awatali bantu ne bakukwata ne bakusiba emiguwa ne bakujja mu mmotoka ne bakusiba mu nsiko.
Nabano bennyini bakikkiriza nti obubbi mulimu gwabwe. Omu ku gwe babbako emmotoka agamba nti bamupangisa nga abalina omulwadde wabula oluvannyuma ne bamwefuulira.
Baŋŋamba genda mpolampola ono omulwadde bw'omukuba mu binnya alumizibwa. Kye nakola nga ngenda mpolampola kati baabala ekinnya bagira ng'ekigere nkijje ku muliro ntadde ku buleeki mu kinnya. Kati
oluguudo olubi lwe baludde nga basaba lukolebwe naye nga teryafaayo. Bino poliisi erabye tebisobola okukakanya abatuuze bano ababadde bavudde mu mbeera kwe kukuba amasasi mu bbanga okubagumbulula.
NUP eziwambye ebibiina byabwe. Ente zaaguma mu kifo kino okumala kati akabanga wabula nga tebamanyi ani nannyinizo. So nga Gavayi Mubende ku kyalo ka Musene
okusambirira ente zezisambiridde ekibiina kino. Abayizi ku Bwonda Primary School e Mayuge batubuulidde nti bamaze ebbanga nga basomera bweru.
Abale batyaimere galiwo gano omwana yebava okubagandike ABCD kimulemye titwidi kiva ku nsomesa mbi titwidi kiva ku nte kwonoona amasomero buti abasomesa boona bafunye ekyokwegemya.
Abaddukanya essomero lino bagamba nti teri gye bateekubidde enduulu wabula balinga abafuuyira endiga omulere.
Yalinda abantu balambaala yafuluma ati ekyalo kiwoze yajja ku bikikondo yasibulula ente yakuba ku mugongo yatambula egi eri emmere yafaawo yakuba ati bali kujjanga batusibuliranga ente daife muntu kyasibula ente atali muganda atali mwayiwo.
Bende ku kyalo ka Musenene omuntu omu afiiriddewo n'abalala ne baddusibwa mu ddwaliro nga bataawa omuliro bwe gukutte ennyumba mwe babadde. Afudde ye Fred Nyenje ow'emyaka 45. Kigambibwa nti omuliro guno gwandiba nga gwakumiddwa mu bugenderevu olw'enkaayana ku ttaka.
Okusinziira nga bwe tumanyi ebintu ebimu bigenze bibaako mu maka gaabwe abantu abo nga tubalaba nga bawuzanga mu makooti biki n'olwekyo oluvannyuma tuseebereza nti mwe mwavudde akabenje ako akokola ki okutabanguka mu maka.
Abantu babiri ab'ennyumba eno baddusiddwa mu ddwaliro mu mbeera mbi.
Oliko NTV akawongeza omuduumizi wa poliisi mu Kampala n'emiriraano Andrew Felix Kawes alagidde omusirikale Gideon Kakuta akwatibwe era avunaanibwe ku bigambibwa nti yenyigira mu kikwekwe kyafiiramu abantu babiri n'abalala ne bagendera ku bisago. Ku ntandikwa y'omwezi guno kigambibwa nti Kakuta yalopera poliisi nti abbiddwako TV ne DVD player era abantu 3 ne bakwatibwa ne baggalirwa mu kkomera e Kabasanda. Kyokka ate oluvannyuma yakola ekikwekweto omwafiira abantu babiri.
Oluvannyuma lw'abantu okutandika okuva mu mbeera olukiiko lw'ekyalo lwayitiddwa bukubirire basobole okugonjoola ensonga zino.
N'agenda emulago olw'okuba yali awulidde mbu waliwo abattiddwa mu kiro ekyakeesezza ku lunaku olwo ng'agenze mu byakubalaata bubalaasi n'amusangayo bbaawe.
Namwandu wa Dickson Lutayo omu kwabo abattibwa annyonnyola ebyaliwo mu kiro ekyo ku bantu abakola ekikwekweto ekiro mu Ttumbi nga babanja TV ne DVD player.
Kati oyo mwami Kakuta oyo musajja muwanvu munene mweru ye n'amusoka amusikayo ne bamufulumya ne bamulekera ne bayingira kati ye mwennyini n'atandika okunkuba.
Abantu mu lukiiko luno obwedda bawanda muliro nga balaga obutali bumativu bwabwe ku ngeri poliisi gyekuttemu ensonga zino ze bagamba nti ezikutte mu ngeri ya ssemugayaavu kyokka ng'ate bo balina obulumi.
Olwo Kakuta yennyini yanona omusirikale ajjako agambe kye wali battirawo n'asanga nga batta ye yali asooka munda. Bw'abayagala tumusasule.
Kawesi yakunyiza DPC Wansanji wamu ne banne balala bakulembera ku ngeri gye bakuttemu ensonga eno.
Operation eno yakolebwa ng'enoonya abaali bateeberezebwa baasigalayo mu kubba DVD. Poliisi neeba nga teri clear.
Abasirikale bano kati amagulu gabafambe.
Driver yali taliiwo nga mulwadde n'envuga emmotoka. Afande Kakuta n'atuulawa.
Mugende naye mumututerekereko eyo munoonyerezeeko nga mumulina.
Kawesi yategezeza nga bwe bagenda okuvunaana Kakuta ng'omuntu singa ddala kinaazuulibwa nti yali emabega w'okuttibwa kw'abantu bano.
Operation y'okutta abantu I cannot.
Akawungezi.
Webale nnyo Dean Lubosava babadde baagala okumuggyako mmotoka ye nga bamulanga obutasasula ssente za stage.
Kitegerekese nti takisi eno yabadde eteekedde amagulu mu steeringi mwegalemedde.
Omuntu yafuna
Samba abigala byenda byakola ki yalayira mu steeringi wabirayira mu steeringi omusaada abavuuka babiri olw'owundi anolya bigere owundi anyola nkoto.
Kyokka omukungu wa Butoda Yazidi Muwaya
sikola ku steering nga amagulu amaze okugangiza mulaati.
Ye omugoba wa takisi oluvannyuma giddwamu.
Akatale k'ensimbi kakutuusibwako.
Insurance Company of East Africa, ICEA, standing by you. Child Insurance Company of East Africa, ICEA, standing by you.
NTV akaongeze chagena maaso dakika ziri ya 3 mwezi ise kwemu katumule mkatona dalato.
NTV, turning on your world. Today's highlight.
Don't you dare threaten me. You're in no position to do that, Gabriela Suarez.
I didn't kill my father, you bastard. I didn't kill him. It was...
You mean you spent the very last of the money I had in this country? Now how am I supposed to get myself out of the mess you put me in, you imbecile?
Can't imagine what else you would possibly have to say to me. Want to have lunch?
I do, but I need to wake up first. It's too early to think about lunch. I didn't even have breakfast yet.
Listen to me, Horatio Cortez. And you learn that no man will ever dump me.
And the change of government won't stop a thing. I've run out of fingers counting the number of multinationals setting up here. What about the 3 companies that announced their plans to launch last week? I say they're shopping. Me, I'd be looking to sell. At what price? More. Much, much more. I don't know who you are or how you know these things, but one thing I'm sure of, you're in the wrong job. Here, call me tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the morning. I'd like to hear more from you.
Are you ready for your big break? The East African, understanding the region.
You're watching Morning at NTV.
As this day starts for you, you're probably thinking, how is it going to turn out? Will I earn enough money for my children, for my family? How much am I expecting? What are the deadlines today? And you're thinking, will I manage this by 5 p.m.? Today on the show, we will start a way of making it happen for you, not just for yourself, but for the rest of your company. To all the corporate people who are early in the office, it's a very good morning. As I received this phone call, I'd like to tell you that I'm on standby live at the Kampala Serena Hotel, and at the NTV studios in the International Conference Center is Mabel Kebirungi, Simon Kasiate and Joel Senyonyi are also on hand for the press review and the big story. What are you ready to do? Sit down, watch us, contemplate on the day, and we are power-packed to start it. Let's head straight into the stories that are making headlines with Mabel. Good morning.
Thank you very much, Bran. I'm very jealous. You have a cup of chai, which I do not have yet, but it's all good here. Good morning. This is Morning at NTV. Thank you for joining us on air and online. And now a reminder of the top stories. The NRM caucus officially endorses President Museveni as the party's candidate for the 2016 general elections. The political scholars in Uganda have described the move by NRM MPs as dangerous, and the United States maintains that all foreign troops should pull out of South Sudan.
You're watching Morning at NTV.
The National Resistance Movement Parliamentary Caucus in Chankwanzi has today officially endorsed President Yoweri Museveni as the party's only presidential candidate for the 2016 general elections. This was after a motion moved yesterday afternoon by the third Deputy Prime Minister, General Moses Ali. Maurice Ochol reports.
All that is left for President Yoweri Museveni is to get the backing of the National Executive Committee and the Central Executive Committee of the National Resistance Movement Party, NRM. Only 2 days ago, the NRM Party caucus proposed that President Yoweri Museveni, who is also the NRM Party chairman, stands unopposed as the party's candidate in the 2016 presidential elections. Now, as the 10-day retreat continues in Chankwanzi, the caucus has unanimously signed a petition backing the motion by the third Deputy Prime Minister, Moses Ali, that urges the president to contest the party chairmanship.
The motion was signed by so many other historicals and people from backbench, and getting all that 193 and still getting many more MPs calling me from homes that they are not feeling well, but they'll still want to come and append their signatures to support this motion.
The 193 signatures, including that of MPs and ministers, are proof on paper of who is backing the move.
And they said there is no way they can do it just by standing up, but they want to personally append their signatures to it and also have a debate to express how they're going to do the mobilization at the grassroots.
A resolution on party cohesion and governance released after the day's meeting reads in Part 1, aware that when individuals engage in personal scheming, party cohesion is undermined. Development efforts are distracted and the population is diverted from work to early politicking. We hereby resolve to support President Yoweri Museveni to continue leading and facilitating our country on its takeoff journey to transformation, to strongly appeal to and urge President Yoweri Museveni to offer himself as presidential candidate and NRM flag bearer in the 2016 general elections, and to discourage some senior leaders in the party with presidential ambitions from pursuing schemes that compromise party cohesion, unity, breed functionalism, and instead urge them to use established party procedures in an open manner. The caucus defends its decision based on the reasoning that before it wins the general elections, the party should first have cohesion within its ranks. It further argues that as the NRM, the party stands to reject and resist firmly all orchestrated propaganda by opponents that the president has been in office for far too long and therefore should hand over power in a peaceful transition. The caucus further notes that democracy is instead built by ensuring that its core prerequisites like universal, free and fair regular elections, free press, full citizenry participation, among others, do exist and are deliberately promoted. Some opposition and independent MPs have criticized the move.
I think they have a right. They can go ahead and endorse him as their leader. He already is. So if they want to go ahead and do it in 2016, I don't see a problem with it whatsoever.
Which is a clear indication that they just lack capacity after 28 years.
I did not really want to see come out of Chankwanzi, as has been always a practice, and certainly this is a norm. This is how business goes on in politics here in Uganda.
The controversial anti-homosexuality bill that was passed by Parliament amid calls for caution by the President will be discussed on Friday. Signing of the signatures is one of the strategies that the members of Parliament and some officials in Chankwanzi think is the best method to gain strength, especially when they go to the National Executive Council and SEC to give out their strong ideas on why the President should stand again in 2016. But this doesn't leave the fact that there are other members in the NRM that think that the President is not the right person to stand again, and others, of course, are going ahead to stand against him come 2016. More research all NTV.
Political scholars have described the move by NRM MPs endorsing President Museveni as the party's flag bearer as dangerous to the party's democracy. The scholars are prophesying doom, a statement they anchored on history chronicled in different African countries where parties have folded at the death of their political leaders. NTV's Solomon Seranja reports.
The recent political developments in the NRM party are a classic example of history repeating itself, only this time with a grander scale with new players. The overwhelming support from the NRM parliamentary caucus for President Museveni to go through unopposed as the party flag bearer can be likened to the 2003 orchestrated plan to lift presidential term limits. While some members like Bidandi Sali, Mugisha Muntu, Miriam Matembe and the Leteria Kategaya objected to the lifting of the term limits. This time around, all the 193 members of parliament put pen to paper supporting President Museveni's unopposed candidature. 11 years later, the events at the same venue seem to have set a precedent. Question is, what's the motive behind President Museveni's endorsement from the NRM legislators?
In 2003, people who opposed the amendment of the constitution to allow President Museveni's indefinite eligibility for standing were dropped. The Kategayas, the Matembes, so people are cautious. Those ministers who are in Changwanzi right now, none of them can put up a finger and say, President Museveni, you have been in power for too long. We want another generation to take over. They fear for their jobs.
Professor Sabiti's argument resonates well with those who moved the motion to lift the presidential term limits in 2003, including Kabura County MP James Kakoza and Kabale Woman Member of Parliament Hope Mwesije.
Some people want to be ministers tomorrow, especially the young people. So they are eager to appear and to be seen by the leader that they are the ones who put him in power. You remember when Kakoza of Kabura one time proposed the first term. Although he had inadequacies in some quarters, he was made a minister.
This comes at a time when it is anticipated that there is an imminent cabinet reshuffle. As a sign of commitment, the vibrant Northern Uganda youth MP Evelyn Anite moved that the MPs put pen to paper on the motion, a document which will be presented to the National Executive Committee. Scholars have likened this to intimidation of party members who could have been against the move to have President Museveni unopposed or even contest a fifth term.
She is actually using that one to intimidate them, and I don't think it is her scheme. It is a bigger scheme coming from somewhere. It is actually using intimidation for people to vote the way they vote. And if we continue with such a procedure by our leaders who are supposed to be showing the way for democracy, then that leaves a big democracy deficit within the body politic of Uganda in the future.
With such voices silenced, scholars on governance affairs are warning that this is bad for the party's democracy.
If internal democracy within the party, even the ruling party, collapses, it means that if that leader one time is not in power, there is a likelihood that that party can collapse with him. UPC is a good example. When Obote was not in control, the party collapsed. You know what happened in Ivory Coast when Anthony Boyne died. You know what happened in Malawi when Kamuzu Banda died. You know, there are so many examples of parties that collapse with their own leaders.
One of the reasons that is given for the NRM MP's proposal is that MPs are safer with a driver who has not only demonstrated ability as the founding leader of the revolution that liberated Uganda, but also managed to keep the country together. This ideology, according to political scientists, is dangerous for the party.
In many quarters that, for example, the Prime Minister, Mama Mbabazi, has very serious presidential missions. Obviously, when the motions of this kind are coming up, they don't feel at ease because, you know, there could have been a gentleman's agreement between some of these people that after this period, maybe so-and-so X could take over from me and so on, so that we perpetuate our party. You know, the danger with a one-man's kind of party is that when he's not there, the party collapses. So it would be, the best thing would be for President Museveni to serve a certain period and hand over the stick to some other person to carry on.
As the debate on the NRM MP's decision continues, President Museveni is yet to comment on the MP's move, although he has in the past said that the party will decide at an appropriate time. Even though members of the NRM Parliamentary Committee have appended their signatures in overwhelming support to President Museveni's unopposed candidature, we can only wait and watch if no member of the party will present their documents to the Executive Committee for approval contesting for that same position. Solomon Sirwanja, NTV.
Well, all in all, we do pray for peace here in our country and also in South Sudan, where the U.S. maintains that all foreign troops should pull out of the country in order to respect the ceasefire signed by the warring parties. This comes a day after the government of Uganda and South Sudan asserted that the UPDF will continue to play a peacekeeping role until their mandate is reviewed.
In December, the Ugandan government deployed an unknown number of UPDF troops to help salvage the situation in South Sudan that nearly turned into a genocide. This after soldiers loyal to the sacked former Vice President Riek Machar allegedly attempted to overthrow the sitting government. The fully blown conflict led to the death of an estimated 2,000 people in just days of violence formed along tribal lines in strategic states of Jonglei, Bor, Unity, and Beitu, among others. As both warring factions began to push for more leverage over the other, peace talks were ongoing in Ethiopian capital Addis Ababa. As UPDF boots remained on the ground, with some quarters commending their contribution in quelling the conflict, the state of affairs changed on Sunday when the US warned that all foreign troops should pull out of the world's youngest nation. The U.S. Assistant Secretary, Bureau of African Affairs, Linda Thomas, during a video feed live from the U.S. State Department at the U.S. mission in Kampala, said the U.S. has not changed its position, a position that has been bitterly contested by the Ugandan and South Sudan governments.
IGAD countries who have been supporting the negotiations supported Uganda's decision, as well as the request of the South Sudanese government for Uganda to come in and provide security for the infrastructure, the important infrastructure such as the airport and the road between Uganda and Juba. And the Ugandans came in at the request of the government and with the support of the IGAD countries. Now that a cessation of hostilities has been signed, we, along with others, call on Uganda as well as other governments to pull back so that we can move the peace process forward and give the people of South Sudan what they have fought for more than 30 years. You heard what the Secretary said. We contributed to the efforts to build this new country. We're vested in this country's success. We want to see the people of South Sudan who voted for peace 3 years ago achieve that peace and move forward in prosperity.
And the foreigners who are always interfering in our own countries, they now become protectionist. That's when now independence comes back. Normally, independence is not talked about. But when Africans want to do something to help each other, it's independence now.
The South Sudanese crisis has reignited the debate on the interests of developed countries like China and the US in the youngest nation, an oil-producing country. However, according to the US Secretary of State, John Kelly, the US has different interests. The government of South Sudan yesterday responded to the US call as an infringement on its sovereignty.
We all have an interest, and everybody has an interest in not letting that happen. So here we have this new nation that is already in extremis, and we helped give birth to it. We feel, this is a part of our responsibility, and we don't want this to cascade into a more violent repetition of the past.
What's not clear is the US's next course of action if Uganda and South Sudan do not change their position, which is all foreign troops should stay as long as they are needed. Sudil Biarhanga, NTV.
Civil society organizations say that the government does not really have a grasp of the role they play in the development of the country. They assert that the laws in place aim at demeaning their work. The Internal Affairs Minister General Ronda Nyakeirima, who met the group, promised to amend the NGO Act and pledged government's full cooperation with civil society organizations.
Civil society organizations, including NGOs, faith-based organizations, trade unions and others, call themselves the citizens' voices. Ugandans need them. they say.
There are a number of challenges that the government cannot reach everywhere. And therefore, in order to supplement that, people have to associate and find resources that can supplement what government does. And I think people sometimes think about NGOs as something that has to be foreign.
Which we find that as an insult, because we are citizens of Uganda and we are interested in the development of Uganda.
There are some areas where almost the government is not. Some of these difficult, hard to reach areas, and NGOs go there.
NGOs that work on HIV, on health, on education.
However, they think that the government ignores their mandate and takes them for granted.
So far what has been is registering civil society and checking whether we have put our books in order. We would want to see more partnership, we want to see more networking.
Actually, there are people who perpetually misinform government that we are against the government. They say this organization is I think, political.
The Minister for Internal Affairs, General Aronde Nyakairima, while meeting them during their strategic forum for 2014, agreed to constantly interact with them.
If I find someone wanting to help our economy to grow jobs, colleagues, I will not walk, I will run with you.
Civil society organizations plan on emphasizing the citizen demands for accountability.
There is a lot of thieving, corruption.
However, they say laws like the Public Order Management Act make their work difficult.
The country has a taker. Public order management law is there.
He, however, has not brushed off complaints against the NGO Act.
The minister said that it's going to be amended so that it is in harmony with the NGO policy.
I'm not a stranger to your work.
The Internal Affairs Minister's promised to reward the NGOs that work within the law and champion what he describes as integrative activities. In the same breath, he threatened to revoke the licenses of organizations that go astray. Florence Saliba, NTV.
Thank you, Florence. And that's all we had for you in today's morning bulletin. We will now take a look at the question of the day. Name the musical instrument found on the Uganda coat of arms, and you can answer that by going to our Facebook page, which is Morning at NTV. Remember to like our page first if you haven't yet liked it. You can follow us on Twitter. Our handle is @Morning at NTV, or you can send an SMS to 6565, and the first 5 people to answer the question correctly will win a mug similar to the one that Simon and Joel and Brian have. We now return to them for the press review.
A very good morning on this wonderful Wednesday morning, the 12th day of February 2014, coming to you live from the complex that is the Serena Kampala Hotel. This is Morning at NTV's press review with myself, Simon Kasiate, Brian Mulondo, and Joel Senyonyi. And like you just heard from Mabel in the studio, the question of the day, just to repeat it for emphasis' sake, name the musical instruments, the musical instrument found in the Ugandan coat of arms. Get us your answer and get yourself some wonderful gifts coming in from NTV at Morning at NTV. Daily press review this morning, looking at the Daily Monitor. An interesting front page picture of Northern Youth MP Evelyn Anite presenting that resolution that decided that President Museveni should become the NRM flag bearer come 2016. And how is she presenting it? Gladly dressed in a yellow t-shirt
and a blue skirt.
And a blue skirt.
Very conspicuous.
Well, I don't know what else is being hidden under the blue sky. And then interestingly, her demeanor is she's kneeling down. This picture speaks a lot of volumes, Joel.
I'll tell you.
There are 190 something signatures, and Prime Minister Mambabazi's signature is not one of them. But take a look at the picture and look with the spite with which he's looking at her. Does that explain why he's thinking that paper?
Is this girl out of her mind? But look, this political demagoguery that we have all over the place is killing us.
The word is what?
demagoguery.
I think let's call it comedy.
Okay, we'll go with that, yeah. But you know, when I look at this young lady kneeling down, trying to, you know, portray herself as the very loyal one, one of the issues I saw they listed as to why they want His Excellency to return is apparently because he's the only one that can enable Uganda at this economic takeoff stage and that kind of thing. And
28 years and you're using the word takeoff?
It just does not work. That's the point. You know, if we're to do some juxtaposition here, Singapore, when it did get independence, actually got independence after us. To this date, they've actually multiplied their GDP per capita by about 190 times. We have multiplied ours by about 8 times.
Well, but the argument of Singapore is actually, you know, is vindicating of these schemes by the NRM. Remember, Singapore has been under almost one ruler for all these so many decades, Lee Kuan Yew, and possibly they're trying to make Museveni a Lee Kuan Yew for Uganda. Who knows?
Well, at least the maths do not show if this is, you know, the multiplication here and the other way around. But look, the challenge sometimes is not even the issue of who stays long in power, even though that is something we need to look into. But you see, somebody once told me that Africa has 3 major challenges. The first one is leadership, the second is leadership, the third is leadership. Lee Kuan Yew did a great deal to see that, well, let's rout out corruption, let's ensure that things work in our country, you know, and then it ended up becoming a meritocracy, where people actually earn positions on merit.
But without a democracy in the way we understand it, of having free and fair regular elections by universal adult suffrage.
Certainly, there's things I don't agree with that he did. He was very totalitarian towards the press, and I think that wasn't good. But you could see him do certain things, right?
That was the driving force for his achievement.
Well, no, not quite. In principle, he routed out corruption. He made sure that he had people that can deliver. Look at the way we do things here. We get people that make a bit of noise. When they kneel down, tomorrow they'll be appointed youth minister.
Absolutely, because she's delivered. Because she's delivering.
Let me tell you, Ugandans don't can kneel. One people can deliver services.
Is this a show of desperation from the MPs?
Well, maybe you could call it
give the president an assurance that actually these people like me, and so maybe if he had the prospects of retiring in 2016, and maybe he's like, hey.
But he has already said that the party will decide.
Absolutely, and the party here has decided.
Looks like it is about to decide.
Well, just for you to get a peep of what exactly this resolution sounded like, I'll read you a small excerpt, but get yourself a copy of the Daily Monitor, and so we all win. We therefore do not need to take any chances or attempt to make trials or experiments while selecting a presidential flag bearer. Anybody else
of Mbabazi, presidential candidate,
2016, 2021. Well, I must say we may need to look at that picture very closely. From what I can see from my very ordinary, rudimentary and ill-skilled eye, that is a clear masterpiece of Photoshop genius. Whoever did this,
it's really beautiful.
It's really beautiful.
A wonderful poster of
I don't know if we can get it closer.
The Daily Monitor also has got a list of those 190-something members of parliament belonging to the NRM that signed this resolution. Did you? Prime Minister Mambabazi is not one of those. He's not my MP. I need to check out whether my MP actually did sign.
So that you brand him a traitor or our man?
Well, I just want to see what my MP is doing on my behalf.
You need to keep tabs on him.
I have homes in 3 constituencies. I have one in Nakawa, and the Honorable Hindi is here. I have another in Rujumbura, and the Honorable. I need to check around. Will take us another day. Inside pages of the Daily Monitor, we have a full page dedicated to something that is akin to graft. The Uganda development boss was a 6-year-old CEO, has been involved in quite not very clear dealings, and as we speak now, she's going through the legal process, currently in Luzira prison, having been denied yesterday. Now, but here we are, real estate firm directors on the run over fraud allegations, and the picture has a billboard of Hosanna Real Estate Limited. Do you have a property with these guys? You may need to check again.
Somebody once told me of this machine, and it was down at the ankle. And they said, no, you guys are more corrupt than that. And he said, you see, the problem is I'm stepping on the head of a Ugandan. May God help us.
Now the question is, there's been some commandos hovering through the jungles from the USA.
That is weakest, you know, and that kind of thing. We've had that year in, year out, until they capture the man.
Isn't this, maybe let's look at it from a grander perspective. Your reports show that Kony is at his weakest. In other words, even if he were carried on the shoulders of anybody, he would still be too weak to make any move.
There's the countries to go, you know, if there's trouble somewhere, you go and help out. But also, because of the interest, the rebel groups going into the Congo, into the CR, the South Sudan gives us the the passage, the platform to go and pursue the rebels wherever they are.
Well, South Sudan. But that letter, we keep hearing of that letter that was sent. No one has showed evidence to that effect, but
well, at least we are doing what a brother needs to do to another brother. Now, in the next magazine, in the Daily Monitor is revisiting the MP Nebanda death saga a year later. But remember, this is not the only unresolved murder. Never mind that she was a very high-profile person. On page 3 of the Daily Monitor, we have an agonizing, currently trending story of the death of this Makerere University Business School student, the late, her name is over here, Emily Akire, whose murderers are still on the loose using her mobile phone, tormenting the family, and the police is, as always, sitting back and taking their sweet time as they move around with their always well choreographed single sentence. Investigations are going on. For how long do these investigations take place? How come you don't take that long to respond to riots or stopping a guy who's driving holding a mobile phone while others are robbing in parts of the neighborhoods where this person is coming from?
You're not using that as an alibi if they arrested you yesterday while you were on phone. But look, this story actually indicates that when they did go to report, police said we shall begin investigations. Is it tomorrow or the day after tomorrow?
Yeah, we are the weekend.
Guys, let's be serious here. This is the murder case. We need to begin investigations now, but clearly now the family doesn't even trust police.
But tell me something. The family doesn't trust police. Do you actually trust police? Has there been a time when you, Joel, have needed police help and it has responded expeditiously to your need?
It's a two-way thing. A few times they actually have. Other times they are disappointing lot. But it's because we do not have many options.
Let's put on tell you something about the Ugandan
I'll give
police.
them 4. That's below average.
Far below average. Now let me give you a bit of my personal experience with the police. They are there when I least need them, and they never stop you down to ask whether you have third party. But get a robber to your house, calling them down.
Well, maybe I'll give them some credit. It's just that on a holistic setting, if you like, I think they need to up their game. They need to pull up their socks. And that's why I give them 4.
And you know, once
average, but
the presidential press secretary, Tamale Mirundu, once intimated that, you know, sometimes I don't blame people who will take on mob justice. If you get the guys that killed this woman, and I'm not advocating for mob justice.
You had better make that clear.
You know, I'm not. But what does the police want us to do?
It has denied reports that they actually summoned Kano Kizza Besigye. Now that's a very interesting story. More like playing out with what's happening in Chankwanzi. Now recently, retired Kano Dr. Kizza Besigye, former president of the FDC, said he will not participate in the next generation.
As smaller than individuals, we need to extricate ourselves from that, because if we are talking about building a democracy, building strong institutions, and yet you say, without you, we are nothing, and the other side, it's the same story here.
Who in FDC would give President Museveni a run for his money? Apart
we need to build capacity, and
who do you think?
The issue shouldn't just be who has potential to outwit this guy. They've all begun from scratch. Let's build capacity. Well, who looks like a good man, a man with a good head on his shoulders, I think he could make some positive strides.
Going into the politics once again, there's an interesting cartoon in the Daily Monitor here where depicting the opposition in Uganda with a huge stack of demands prior to 2012. Having lost some of those demands this year, especially given yesterday's discussion with the 10 demands that they have put across. And it is anticipated from this cartoon that by 2016, there won't be any demands in this demand bag, and they will go back to the race as empty-handed as they always did. A quote from
read that quote, please.
Coming in from former Vice President Gilbert Bukenya about the NRM caucus. He says, and I quote, "Such extravagant use of government money to take people to Chankwanzi to illegally endorse a candidate is an abuse of office."
How come he wasn't saying that when he was Vice President?
And he has always been one of those that have propagated the gospel of let this man remain in power. And you see, that's why Ugandans are ceasing to trust politicians. When it favors them, they cheer on. When tomorrow their fingers get burned,
Dr. Bukenya,
they begin to say otherwise.
Dr. Bukenya is the quintessential Mr. Flip-Flop. So this is what's going for him.
You're not surprised.
Talking about extravagant use of time, I think time is not an ally on our side, and indeed to continue this debate and press review longer than now would be abuse of office. Let's take a break and return with a big story.
Hey, your new mobile network shortlisted 7 names. Vote for your favorite name today and you could win free minutes, SMS and data.
SMS Name Us, then space your choice to 8198 or log on to giveUsaname.net or Facebook/GiveUsANameAfrica.
Yes. Number of visits. It's not a one-off. You've got to visit the counselor maybe once a week for about 6 weeks to help you accept the situation. Some males are counseled to accept the child, you know, or to accept the situations.
Or they are counseled to reject the child?
No, we never do that. Some males are also counseled to help them accept the situation that the child they've been raising is actually not theirs.
Well, in the medical field, there is always this adage that if symptoms persist, seek medical advice. And I just love to twist this around the corner. Is it always a once-off that someone walks into your booth, gets their results, and never returns? Or do many of them take it with caution and say, you could be telling lies, and therefore seek a second opinion?
That's a very small minority. That's about 3% of the people that walk in. 2 to 3% are not sure. They want a second opinion. Well, at our firm, Little Oak DNA Testing, we always provide an assurance, and if you ever have a result that differs from ours, we are willing to give you a full refund of your initial costs.
But maybe for the sake of the people watching us, they need to understand how foolproof is a DNA test.
Absolute. Depending on the laboratory doing the test and the exact test being performed. I'll just give you a plain scenario. One, for you to be excluded from being my father, there must be at least, we look at what we call genetic loci or positions, or in layman's terms, along the long chain of DNA, you've got small towns, right? You've got Kampala, you've got Jinja, you've got Mbale, Soroti. So those are what we call loci. Now, on either side of what I would call of that loci, one side of the town is inherited from your mother, one side of the town
is inherited from your father.
Correct. All we need to do is look at the shape and size on both. For you to be excluded from possibly being my father, there must be a difference of at least 3 or more. Just that.
How many loci are we talking about here?
The standard, oh, there are billions of them. There are billions of loci. The standard test looks at 16. That's the standard paternity test internationally. If you're able to identify 3 or more differences in shapes and sizes from your loci, from your genetic material from the child definitely cannot be.
So if you're looking at 16 gene bases, let me use that word,
okay,
and somebody scores 13 out of 16, they are not a father.
They are not a father.
So it must be either 15 out of 16 or 16 out of 16.
The vast majority is 16 out of 16. A small proportion will have one small difference. Having one genetic mutation at a certain loci is usually influenced by, say, perhaps the mother's DNA, which will change the conformation and size of the shape of the child.
Well, now we're going into the science Spanish that many people may not possibly understand, but I also need to make it clear to you watching us that DNA is not only about paternity tests, so to speak. DNA could also be about finding a missing relative. There's been a case in point. At one time, there was time when Ugandans died in mysterious circumstances and were buried in unmarked graves and the like, and the families went through an agonizing moment trying to find exactly where the kith or kin were buried, and landed on bones and took them for DNA testing and the like. Well, how many of such cases do you handle where you determine missing persons or the location of their burials?
That's a minority, less than 1%. On average, we have about 2 cases a year. These are usually families that come in and they are not sure, like the example you've provided, where the multiple bodies were buried in the same grave or unidentifiable grave, and they would like to find out what the DNA samples are. We usually approach a pathologist. The police is always involved. Exhumation occurs, and we're able to obtain samples that to be able to match against the living relatives. It's very emotional, and it's quite important.
But Aaron, there's also talk that you do not have the requisite machinery and reagents to carry out a proper DNA test in Uganda. Is that a truth, or it's one of the fallacies that are always spewed around?
Partially fallacy, because one institution received a donation of equipment that's able to do the basic 16 DNA paternity test. In country, we still do not have the ability to perform extended DNA profiles, which would be like the 41 marker as opposed to the 16 marker.
Why 41 and 16? The 41 is more foolproof than the 16?
Exactly, because the further away I may be related to you, the more likely that there will be differences. If you have a grandfather, grandchild, an aunt, and with a possible nephew, or possible siblings, if you would like to test if we are, if I and you are brothers, right?
Okay.
Performing the 16 genetic test is likely to provide very inconclusive results. We may not be able to determine that. When you expand it and compare our 41 markers, we're able to accurately define if the two of us are related or otherwise. And that's only available at one of the labs in the United States, like Universal Forensics.
Well, there is always a case where you meet somebody and say, he looks exactly like Alan. And there is possibly a chance that their parents visited each other at one time in the far past. Do you have such cases where some people meet and have a feeling they are possibly related and come to you to take on this extended DNA testing and profiling?
Not as yet. Not as yet. We haven't had people who have met on the streets and think that they are related. Those that approach us, especially for a sibship test between siblings, they have reasons why they think they look alike. Okay, they do look alike, but it's usually based on somebody having told one of the siblings that you two may actually be related.
How about DNA profiling with regard to their version of crime? That you have a murder most foul, like we just reported earlier on in the day, going on with the Makerere University Business School student, Emily, who met her death in very grotesque terms, and there is need to carry out some DNA profiling on her body to find out whether there's some strange strands of hair or blood that possibly belong to her. How often do you get involved with pathological examinations from the police and other law enforcement agencies?
The police in it per se has not approached us with multiple cases. We have the capacity, we have the capability. However, I would stress that they would have to be specifically trained in how to collect those samples. Contamination of DNA samples is very, very easy. Minute amount of cells from the individual collecting, or dust, or people walking through the crime scene will totally change the whole picture. That's on the side. The majority of cases that we get from the police involve a rape. So if we get, we've got an inner garment from a lady who has been raped, a girl who has been raped, we're able to extract DNA from the sperm or residue of skin cells on the inner garments of the female.
What's your experience with the way police collects this data? Is it always foolproof, or do you sometimes receive specimens that are heavily contaminated, and you say, for example, with the case of rape, you realize there is 21 DNA from 21 different individuals, and you begin to imagine it possibly was a gang rape, when in essence it's just 20 police hands and one rape victim and one rape perpetuator?
Fortunately for the cases that we have handled regarding rape, they've been clean samples. Just one single DNA from the sperm identified on the inner garment.
Well, where do you think this the future of DNA profiling is with regard to the Ugandan case, where you have increasingly many people taking to it for recourse with regard to sorting out family disputes, crime, and the like? Do you have the capacity to meet the demand as anticipated in the future?
Yes, we do. We definitely have the demand. The demand should be there. Currently, the limiting factor has been cost, but definitely people are seeking the services. And the majority of our people, maybe up country, are unable to afford the 190,000 Ugandan shillings per individual.
Well, many times, now this is really layman discussion. This is when you meet somebody, or even in politics, where you have cases where leaders are accused of not being the nationality where they are leading. You've had cases in Zambia where some presidents were not thought to be Zambians. You've had the rumor mill in Uganda where they say some leaders are actually not Ugandan. Does DNA profiling sort out such discrepancies?
I would say definitely not. You can't. Uganda is multi-ethnic. We've got dozens or dozens and dozens of different tribes. It's very unlikely that you'd be able to isolate somebody as not being ethnically Ugandan.
Tell me, Alan, as a final question as we wrap up this big story this morning, again I want you to reiterate and give me 100% assurances. Can DNA tests go wrong?
On one premise. just one premise, contamination of the sample. Lab errors are extremely rare. At our lab, it's standard. We perform 2 individual tests on 2 sequential days. So we collect 2 samples from you, we'll collect 2 samples from your child. On day 1, the first sample one sample from you and 1 sample from the child is run. The next day, the second samples are run independently, and the results are not released until the 2 samples the results are actually compared and are identical. So that's nearly foolproof, okay? But I can only speak for our
How long does it take to get a DNA result out? If I walked into your lab today, how soon can I have my mystery solved?
5 working days.
5 working days. So if I show up on a Friday, I forget about Saturday and Sunday and start counting from Monday down 5 working days.
That's right.
Wow.
The next week you'll have your result.
This country is not averse to graft and corruption. Alan, look me in the face and tell me the truth. Have you had cases where people who know what the results will actually be but have been playing fool to the other partners have walked up to you and say, you know what, Alan, fix this for me?
Bullseye, it has happened several times, multiple times. Usually females. We have had a female saying my pregnancy has lasted 2.5 years, and we tried to counsel her and tell her, you know what, this is really a waste of money. 2.5-year pregnancy is unheard of and medically impossible, but she insisted and went ahead with a test. We have had some females who potentially have lots to lose if the child were identified as not being
of the person that's been supporting them.
They have approached us in one way or another. We have always been gracious enough to politely decline their advances. We are unable to help them in any way, and we make this extremely clear to them.
Alan, who is a research pharmacist with the DNA vaccine, thanks a lot for joining us on The Big Story this morning. It's been tremendous having that insight with regard to DNA, and possibly I will not give you a chance to mention your number to the people watching you, because I'm very sure after this you'll get a number of clients knocking at your door to have mysteries solved by this. Let's take a short break. When we return, it's Simon Says. Well, it is always said that what you do in the dark always comes out in the light, and there is no way you can cheat the truth. Now, DNA profiling, what I earlier told you, is in full deoxyribonucleic acid. This is that blueprint in our body that determines who we actually are. You can run, but you cannot hide from the truth that comes with the DNA. Now, if you are the kind that is seeking to find out whether that child you are raising is yours, a DNA test may be very hurting, but you need to take it. The earlier you face the truth, the better for you. If you have a missing relative who you suspect could have been buried in some area and you have pieces of cloth or bone that you may have to hold on to, and for sentimental reasons believe that is your kith or kin, well, you may need to take it a step further and go for that DNA test to prove you right or wrong. Either way, it's the way to go, because the truth will always surmount over whatever machinations or falsehoods that can ever prevail in our lives. Have a wonderful morning. Let's stay tuned to NTV as we continue with wonderful programming here, Morning at NTV.
A wife who you got through the office will be very insecure about you working in another place.
Always hunt up, don't hunt down.
You mean what? Go after your superior?
How dare you suggest that when a woman is aggressed against, we should look at the person who's been aggressed against?
Let the couple be. Let them sort out their issues. When they need you, then you come in.
Prostitution is being given a new brand.
All I know is that I connect people.
Some call it skinny dipping, others call it chitwe.
If it's a principle for you, then the cookie should not hold you hostage.
Let's not choose to open our zips and do whatever our urge is, because I don't think that an urge is stronger than your will to say no.
People attach a lot of questions, shame to HIV.
I do not believe that when you wear a short dress, you should be a rep.
Marrying a wife is like having assured sex.
Anytime you come, you must have.
Yes.
You raise a population that has no clue how to be men.
Can you bring out a quality family?
I don't get married for my family.
Men, every Wednesday only on NTV.
is tough, but you suck it up and you stick through the good times and the bad times. What kind of example are you setting for your sister who is about to walk down the aisle herself?
Shut up, Nandi. Seriously, you just keep poking and poking at other people's relationships. You're like a cancer.
Ati, I hope you're discussing fashion because you have everything under control, yes? And the only crisis you're going to have is you clashing with the red carpet.
We've met mystics. And that's what marriage is all about. Mistakes and forgiveness. For better or for worse.
I'm sorry, but I've got to ask.
Nothing happened between me and Lucia.
Well, Lulu is not here, and if she comes, I'll let her know you're here. You picked the wrong person to mess with, Lucy. Up to you.
Obonyumirwa ebyemizannyo jangu nkulage.
Does! And Adam Johnson, the boyhood Newcastle United man, Derek, flying in the face of all football logic. A magnificent goal by Robin van Persie. Ferdinand! Everton lead at Old Trafford. Walcott, Giroud! Put in by Suarez. Super Suarez. Hazard backs it up.
You're watching Morning at NTV.
A very good morning to you, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you're joining us from, whether it's your home or your office. This is Morning at NTV, where we are wired definitely to start your day. And I'm telling you, today is Wednesday, it's the middle of the week, so we are pretty excited trying to finish off our assignments, and it's pretty exciting. I personally am looking forward to this weekend, so yeah, I hope that you stay with us until 9 o'clock. Before the break, we're looking at DNA. We all know what happened to Pade Bitama and the rest of the drama, but it has not just happened for Pade Bitama. A gentleman collapsed in northern Uganda after discovering that the son he had been taking care of 5 years, really for 5 years, been taking care of this boy. Then he was subjected to a DNA test, and alas, the child was not his. This guy collapsed. And so this has brought a lot of concern. And some of us will take our children, take them for a DNA test, and without the wife knowing, and then, you know, you find out your kids are not yours. So I hope Alan did justice to that. Please forward those questions, and to those of you that sent those messages yesterday, as far as the promotions at your jobs is concerned, Doreen is going to answer those questions on our Facebook page. But we want to thank you so much for following us. Today, right now as we speak, we are 3,779,100 people on our Facebook page. There are 3,779 people that like our page. Invite your friends to like this page too. I'm telling you, you won't regret it. But if you're leaving your home, if you're leaving your office, probably heading to a meeting, we're going to let you know in a couple of minutes what roads to avoid in the traffic report. Good morning. It's 7 minutes after 8 o'clock. Thank you so much for staying with us. Now, something that has also caught my eye, I'll tell you, let me just finish with this because I'm a bit concerned about, you know, this topic. But we had Henry sending us a photo. Remember, you can WhatsApp us a photo wherever you're stuck and send it to 0777 16730. That is 0777 16730, and let us know wherever you start. But Henry sends a message, a picture from Bukoto Chisasi. That's I think he sent it at around 6:30 a.m. Oh, thank you so much. We also have a picture coming in from Chisasi, Bukoto Kabira, and he was saying that that place was full at that time. We have another photo from around I think the road behind Kabira Country Club. It says it's bumper ku bumper. Mugisha sending a message from Mulago, and he's saying it's also full. Wow, you guys, thank you so much. Kira Road is also full. If you're passing via Kira Road, it's also full, and up to the police roundabout Wansi when you're about to get to Shell. And Yusuf Lule was also full. Now, something that was very interesting, and I'm telling you, Ugandans, truly, we are just too bad. Nakawa, this guy with a pig on the Katingi, and that is Nakawa stage. Next to that big bridge. This guy was quite on point. Thank you so much, Peter, for sending that photo through. This shot is very, very funny. It's so funny. So if you are carrying any animals in your car, please feel free to let us know what you're doing with them. Let me see a picture again from Peter at Meat Packers. And yeah, the traffic is, I guess, very clear. At the Serena here, the road going down next to the Subway restaurant, it's clear. So you can use that road if you want to. And please, feel free to tweet us those pictures, morning at NTV, and you can share with us so that we can let people know what roads to avoid or not. Already messages about the DNA test coming through. Ntabazirunal saying the DNA test is so costly. Well, if it's worth it, then I guess you can take it. 600,000 should not be a lot of money if it's going to determine a decision of a lifetime. When we come back, I'll be sharing with you something that is not happening here, but in the US, and whether the once hailed black man of first president of the world is actually now falling, even when his exit is very soon. But for now, Mabel at the International Conference Center standing by with the birthday wishes.
Happy birthday to you.
Thank you very much, Brian. And indeed, that picture of the pig on the back of the pickup is very interesting. Well, some of the birthdays today: Diana Buyungo Sempa, who works at Africa Technology Experience. She was born this day, the 12th of February. Also celebrating a birthday today is Princess Daisy Patience. She went to Lowell Girls and Katikamu SDA. She studied at Makerere University. And our very own Peter Seranga, who I don't know where he is right now at the moment. He is heading somewhere, but he's usually here behind the scenes, a very comic guy. Peter, I wonder how old you are, and we expect cake when you do come in. But we like to celebrate your birthday, so do send us messages. 6565 is our SMS line. And moving on to Twitter, some of your messages. Colin says, #trust is a big issue. Couples need to be faithful. I think he is referring to the big story with Simon and the DNA testing. Good girl here. She calls herself Good Girl. She says she likes the variety on morning at NTV. David says he can't wait for Dakaba Chigongo's analysis of the Arsenal versus Man United game that will be later on today. We have Dennis Kabugo, who says DNA testing, he needs more information on that. I think still that refers to the big story that we had. We now return to Brian and everyday life.
A very good morning to you, ladies and gentlemen. If you're just joining us, this is Morning at NTV. We are wired to kickstart your day. Now, something that caught my eye, and by the way, please feel free to follow us on Twitter, Morning at NTV. Follow our page and tell us whatever is happening. But you can also like our Facebook page, Morning at NTV. The president of the US is, when he's about to finish his term, has been hit with all these massive attacks as far as staying faithful to his wife is concerned. And the latest picture shows that he was with Beyonce. And there's a rumor that this guy had an affair with Beyonce.
Really?
Do you think it's true?
No, I don't think it's true.
You don't think?
Because he's a man of high integrity.
He's a man of high integrity?
Yes.
Well, someone said that sex has caused world wars, so
yeah, it's
maybe let me know what you think. Do you think Obama actually had an affair with Beyonce? And I want to find out whether you think it's true. Would Beyonce trade all that for the American president? Yeah. Keep those SMSs coming, 6565, and the Facebook page is open, and also Twitter. You can tag me at mbgold2. Now, technology is an integral part of our day-to-day lives. People all over the world rely on it for things like communications, organizations, and employment. And they have definitely made life much easier, but at the expense of our health. Could these gadgets be harmful to our bodies? That's what we are looking at today on Everyday Life. Before we get into the discussion, take a look at the profile of our guest today. Dr. Sabrina Chitaka is here with us this morning on Everyday Life, and every Wednesday we look at health issues. Today on the show we're looking at whether these beautiful gadgets are now a health hazard to our bodies. Thank you so much for joining us. What exactly do you do?
I am a pediatrician and also an adolescent health specialist. That means I take care of children between the age of 0 and 19 years.
Oh, I should bring my son.
Yeah.
And you take
How old is your son?
He's now 8 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
He's starting to crawl, so it's a
little
really
bit
fun.
dangerous.
Yeah,
he hasn't dropped your phone in the bathroom?
Ah man, I keep those gadgets away.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're trying to child-proof also, so it's really exciting. Well, Doctor, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Of course, the computer revolution is awesome, and I can see your phone. It's quite. Let's just show this.
Funky phone, like.
Take a look at this hands-free Simanya Sijui earphone. Look at this. Wow.
Yeah.
So do you use this in traffic?
Sometimes, but I'm not supposed to.
Wow, what made you get this?
So this, I found my friend Bernadine had one of these, and so I got excited, and she bought me one as well. And my whole family, the 7 of us, all have these gadgets. This is actually my daughter's, Tina's, because mine was misplaced somewhere.
Wow,
but you know,
isn't it too bulky?
No, it's not actually. It's very convenient. Put the phone far away from you and receive the call. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah. Because, you know, the people who make these gadgets have the assumption that these mobile phones have a high radio frequency. And so if you have high radio frequency on your ear constantly, right, or very close to you, then there's a slight chance of maybe your brain being affected and maybe getting tumors. There have been animal studies that have shown in mice that long levels of high radio frequency from mobile phones could cause a change in the albumin in their brain. So it's on that note that people are advised not to hold the phone to their ear for a very long time. That's the essence of having earphones and then the phone far away from you.
Right.
Or putting the phone on loudspeaker.
You're right. What are some of the things, the weird behaviors that we have, or the things that we do with our gadgets that make us susceptible to all these radio frequency?
High radio frequency. The first one is free calls. So, and especially among young people, they like to talk and talk and talk a lot. Pakalast. So they'll be on the phone forever, talking to their friends, talking to each other, and this could be for hours and hours and hours. But the other people who speak a lot on phone are like me, a doctor, talking to my colleagues in different countries on teleconferences. A teleconference can go on for like 1 hour.
But is it a teleconference safe? It's, you know, it's there, you're here, and you're kind of just...
No, you know, there are gadgets called, you know, the external phones, which can do teleconferencing. But many times you find yourself in a situation where you have to use your mobile phone as your teleconferencing piece. So if you have this piece on your ear for 1 hour, believe me, by the end of the teleconferencing, your ear is already buzzing.
How?
So the extension like this is convenient because it's very comfortable on your ear, and you know the phone is far away from you.
Is that just plastic?
It's plastic with wires.
Right. So that has, so literally our landlines are a bit safe.
Exactly. But you know, Uganda is one of the only countries that has more mobile phones than landlines. In 2009, we hit a maximum 550% more mobile phones than landlines in this country.
Wow.
Yes. And so more and more people have mobile phones. I'm surprised you don't have like 6 phones, Brian.
No.
But some people walk around with like 10 phones. Every single line that comes, they want a different phone. And it's problematic. First of all, it's destructive. If you have 3 phones calling you from Airtel, from MTN, from, you know, Orange, it's going to be destructive already.
Right.
And on top of that, phones have become smart. And people do beyond just speaking on the phone, but they use the phones for WhatsApp, for Facebook, for everything. So literally people are on their phones, you know, tapping away. And there is a problem. If people over tap on their phones, they get what we call tendinitis. Like their tendons can become stressed out.
Or because you're
using these muscles, and so your tendons are becoming thinner. And they could actually go into a flexion deformity like that.
Doctor, first.
Yeah, because
okay, you've talked about flexion.
A flexion deformity like this.
And then tendinitis.
Tendinitis, the tendons here that supply the thumb, as people are tapping away like this continuously, either on WhatsApp or on
Twitter,
whatever it is, they are engaging these particular thumbs.
Right.
So they could get stressed out here with wasting and even pain. Yeah.
Wow.
The other thing that people do a lot is texting while driving.
Yeah, I've been a victim of that. I do that sometimes.
And for me, it's that little distraction that people get while texting. And there's even a term called sexting. Yeah. Like sending
that has become more popular,
sexualized messages on phone, which can get people excited. You're busy driving and then you see this picture, and guess what, you can ram into another car. So mobile phones have created a lot of accidents. Right. So
wow, a very interesting scenario of the tendinitis. I had never thought about that because due to the nature of my work, I'm also
always
like
on
that. But there's also been talk about insomnia, especially when it comes to our computers. Most of us will get into at work, sit on that computer up to 5 p.m. We don't move except go out, have lunch. The water dispenser is just closed. the whole time we're engaging, as far as our work is concerned, is on the computer.
So, your brain needs to rest. Reading and engaging in what you're doing on your computer gives your brain neurons a lot of work. And when your brain neurons are working a lot, they release what we call lactic acid. Okay? And lactic acid can subsequently cause insomnia. So and insomnia is that condition where you don't get enough sleep or lack of it. So the continuous process of continuing to work on a computer persistently can result in you getting lack of sleep. It's very, very important to distract and like walk away, like you said, walk away, do something, because being continuously on a computer can result in your brain becoming fatigued and then subsequently you becoming insomniac. Wow.
I don't know if we are alert, but that's quite, wow, that's quite mind-blowing. And I want to quickly use this finger this time so that I don't get tendinitis. But some shocking revelations over there. There's also been much talk about these phones causing obesity. Whatever technology we are using. How is that, possible?
Obesity is an imbalance of nutrition and energy. So you take in a lot, you don't exercise, and then you get more, bigger in size. So if somebody is sitting right down, right there, not doing anything else, but just being on their phone, then they become redundant, and they are not expending the energy that they are putting in.
Right.
And most times, people are not just sitting, they are chewing on crisps or popcorn or something to eat because they are bored and all they are doing is texting or WhatsApping or whatever it is.
Wow. Please feel free to let us know. What are some of those habits that you have as far as technology is concerned? Sometimes I'll be caught texting while driving. I should stop that this year. I should really stop that. It's very dangerous. I think I find it easier to tell people, why are you texting while you're driving? Then I remember I also do it. WhatsApping, at the risk of tendinitis and there's something else that you talked about.
Insomnia later.
No, it had to do with the reflex something.
Oh yeah, the fixed flexion deformity.
Flexion deformity.
Yeah.
So your hands are literally stuck.
They could
your
get
fingers are stuck like this.
Banange.
Now actually,
and then remember, you're not using all the other fingers, so you're busy always on this.
Wow. So let us know what you think. 6565 is the SMS line. You can also Facebook us, Morning at NTV. Go and let us know what you do, and we shall share with the doctor. She can answer your questions right now, and also tweet us, Morning at NTV. Doctor, we've been told that sometimes where we put these parts, these phones, or this is a router, so I was told this is a router, so I had to put it far away.
Okay.
Mobile router, so let it be there. Otherwise,
it could affect some of your.
Hey, some people have told us don't put your phone near your gadget, the natural gadget. But others tell women don't put the phone near your breasts. What are those parts or places we should avoid putting our phones?
There are, like I said earlier, there have been studies to demonstrate that the high radio frequency, either from your router or from your phone or from your computer, could have an effect on fast-growing cells. In the male genital organ, there are cells that are growing rapidly, the spermatozoa, and these could be affected. Yeah? And also in the breast.
Is there a risk that you're likely to be impotent?
Not really, I doubt. The level of radio frequency that comes from our phones is minimum. These phones have been tested and tried over time, and they are safe. So I think the risk is there, but it's mild, and all the studies that I read about are really in rats, animal studies. So not in human beings. Some people have said, some studies have shown, one study I read about, that if you have high radio frequency from your phone, because we use mostly GSM phones, that they could potentially damage a protein called albumin, and which albumin is mostly in our brains, and it could cause a leakage into the blood-brain barrier and potentially give you what we call an encephalitis. So inflammation of your brain, so your brain becomes a little bit
jelly,
insulted, like buttered up. So that there's a low possibility, but it needs to be in a high range of frequency. You know, currently in the world today, Brian, there are more than 1 billion phones, and the number of phones is increasing. So if these gadgets were dangerous, then it means that the population would potentially be wiped away. That's why they have to be made with a lot of safety, because you know there's a lot of frequency coming from the masts, you know, the masts that transmit the information. If we were to think that there's a study in Turkey that was done to demonstrate that no one increased in their level of, you know, leukemia or blood cancer or things, which clearly demonstrated that whereas they are high frequency waves, they may not affect humans the way we think. But I have, you know, gone to a hotel, and my key, you know, the key that swipes, and the key has died, and then they've said it's because you put your key next to your phone, because it affects the electromagnetic power of the key.
The key lock has
electromagnets.
So the phone takes away that?
Yes, it wipes it off. So which potentially means that if we have, let's say, a pacemaker in situ, like if somebody has a heart problem and they have a pacemaker in situ, they shouldn't put their phone near their pacemaker, because it could destabilize the pacemaker.
Oh, so that works with people
who have like, instruments in their bodies. If, for example, I'm just giving an imaginary information, like if somebody has a cochlear implant.
What's that?
Like if they are deaf and they have a gadget to help them hear.
The hearing device?
Not the hearing device.
What?
A cochlear implant. They actually put a cochlea, a new machinery cochlea, to help you hear better. It's computerized. So such people shouldn't be sleeping with their phones right next to the cochlear implant.
Sometimes I'll put my phone under the pillow.
Forever?
Because of the alarm. You know, if I put it away, I may not hear that thing go off.
So the assumption is, if your phone, and I'm not an electronic engineer, okay? I'm just talking because I've read about it. If you put your phone near your ear and it's active, then the electromagnetic frequency is being spilled into your body parts, your brain, your ear, whatever. But if it's just resting, my assumption is it's not emitting anything.
Oh, if it's just resting, then, well, it's inactive.
It's inactive.
Per se. Wow. I like the fact that you have also related a few medical conditions where you have to keep the phone away. If you have
a pacemaker,
you need
if you have a cochlear implant, if you have like those are the main two ones, really.
What's the talk about phones causing cancer?
It's you know, it comes from the basis of radiation. Like if you have high volume radiation, like if you have electricity lines going over a site and you're always under those lines, potentially those electric lines and the waves could destabilize your cells and you could get cancer. There's an association.
Well, a study showed that adolescents who watch 3 or more hours of television per day were at a significant elevated risk of frequent sleep problems by early childhood. We know that. I remember the time when 24 had just come. I would sleep at 4 a.m. This thing was so addictive. I would sleep at 4 a.m., wake up at 6, go to school. And some of that stuff is really, really dangerous, especially for some of you who have jobs where you have to report to work by 7 a.m. We're looking at the risk and the dangers of this technology. if you are watching us and you're probably streaming, maybe that may be dangerous on your phone. But let us know some of the habits that you have, and we can share with the doctor. Ask her questions now when she's still here, and we don't have to go through this again. Remember, Dr. Sabrina is a pediatrician, but also an
adolescent health specialist.
Adolescent health specialist. Okay, I'm trying to look up your questions here quickly before we let the doctor go. Technology, I have to be patient here. As I wait for this thing to load up, what are the other parts? So I should desist from putting it here. Are there devices, or some people have put jackets where I can store my phone?
Yeah.
Or put it in the bag. Is that
well?
Can that help?
Some designer jackets are thought to be protective of mostly the phone from falling, from breakage, but also protecting you from the phone. You know, like if you have this phone far away from you, and then you're using your extension, the assumption is that it's far away, and very useful if you're on phone for a very long time. But as we said earlier, if the phone is in rest mode, then typically you may not have a real danger.
A message here. Turiagu John says, Dr. Sabrina, thanks for the lecture. Doctor, is talking on phone while charging dangerous? That is Alele Alan Sparky.
Alan, that's a very, very good question. And yes, situations have occurred where people are on phone and the phone is charging and the phone has exploded. There are people who have died because of their mobile device.
What happens? What happens? I don't understand.
So it's not clear. You know, the phone has electromagnetic waves. It also has components. I don't remember the exact component, but some of it is cobalt. But it could easily explode. And remember, you're using DC power, direct power, and you're charging the phone. So it's completely disadvised for people to charge their phone and speak on it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think I do that sometimes.
It's wrong.
And when I'm charging from my laptop. Tusasire Uzaya says, what you people are talking about is real. You can't believe I have developed sores on my thumb. And I had not realized that it was this phone. Thank you people for educating us. And that is there in Fort Porto. Wow. Dennis being cocky and saying nice info on sexting. We'll talk about that on another day and the dangers. But Masaba Gladstone Isaac also has a question. This thing is loading. But what are the recommended things that we should do to make sure that while we use these phones, because they're here to stay, we are also safe?
Exactly. I think we need to educate the public of the dangers, which you're doing already. Thank you. But also we need to educate the young, you know, the children. Because my 7-year-old already has a phone and he's so fast with it. But he understands that he cannot use his phone until 2 a.m.
Probably next time when you come back, we'll bring your child. And we look at what age that child should get a phone. Because some of us got a phone when we were campus.
But you see, phones are very useful. In the past, when we were growing up, we had these dialing phones. You know, you probably didn't see them, like
I saw
the dialing phones, and you know, you had to like wait until you're at home to get a call. It was complicated. But now I know that right as I leave work, I could call my son and ask him how he's doing, call my daughter and ask her if she started off with her homework. So it's easy.
Right. I have my son. This is the last question, Doctor. And I know there's so much here. Masaba Isaac saying, Dr. Sabrina, should we stop using those gadgets? What is the effect of using a phone while charging? I hope they have answered your question. I always use my phone for teleconferencing every day, but why don't I get such infections? That is Jonah Humphrey.
I didn't say infections. I said a possibility of you damaging your ear. If the phone is very loud, you could have a slight risk of getting a tumor. Who knows?
Wow.
But yeah. But so it's very important for people who are on phone all the time. We've seen people who work in telecommunication companies, customer care service providers. They don't like speak on the phone like this. They have earphones and extension cables.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll have to keep it at that here for today. Jonah Humphrey saying he uses his eyes to scroll on his Samsung S4. Wow.
Congratulations.
And the risk to your eyes, we'll call you for another, session, and you can talk about that. Of course, the risk of earpieces like the one of Mulondo. This one, this one, what is the risk of this? Does it affect my ear? We'll definitely work on that on another day. But thank you so much for your feedback on our Facebook page, Morning at NTV. And I can see the numbers rising to 3,800. We love you and keep that feedback coming in. Dr. Sabrina, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Brian.
Thank you. Thank you. Definitely calling. Standing by is Isma and Mabel. Isma, what do you have in the world of sports?
Good morning, Brian. And there's a lot of it. I think the life will stop in town this evening when Arsenal do host Manchester United. The two most popular clubs in Uganda. But that's not all we'll be giving in sport today. We'll talk about Victoria University. We'll do a recap of the Real Madrid-Atletico Madrid game from last night, and also hint on what the national ladies volleyball team is doing.
Well, I'll be joining Isma and Mabel in about a minute or two. But for the rest of you, stay locked on Morning at NTV. We'll be right back.
This Valentine's Day will be very special for lovers at Kampala's premier nightclub, Governor. 2 lucky couples will win a night at the classic Kampala Serena Hotel, plus a 1-year Governor membership card. Book your table for 2 at only 200,000 shillings, which entitles you to entrance, dinner for 2, courtesy of Kampala Serena Hotel, and a Bailey's Irish Cream gift hamper. Single ladies will pay only 20,000 for entry. Lovers will be serenaded by live jazz, soul, and R&B music by Black Roots Unlimited. Don't miss this year's Valentine's special at Governor. Whatever your mood, we got the color.
Marriage is tough, but you suck it up and you stick through the good times and the bad times. What kind of example are you setting for your sister who is about to walk down the aisle herself?
Shut up, Nandi. Seriously, you just keep poking and poking at other people's relationships. You're like a cancer.
Ati, I hope you're discussing fashion. Because you have everything under control, yes? And the only crisis we're going to have is you clashing with the red carpet.
We've made mistakes. And that's what marriage is all about. Mistakes and forgiveness. For better or for worse.
I'm sorry, but I've got to ask.
Nothing happened between me and Lucia.
Well, Lulu is not here, and if she comes, I'll let her know you're here. You picked the wrong person to mess with, Lucia.
On the next episode of Login.
The Divas Unplugged at Club Soap.
My baby. My baby. My
And the NTN social media party.
I am teaching you that thing. You are playing with that thing. Oh girl, you don't know that thing. I am teaching you that thing.
Yeah, you're watching Login 2014.
This is all coming up this Wednesday at 7:30 only on NTV. Don't miss it.
Login.
The average age of the international team is under 18.
The primary role of Team Uganda is to remain to Division 2.
Probably that's the only thing that can make 1 or 2 rugby fans smile, that the Cubs are doing well.
I like
the players have not put on they've not wore the game faces. They're not the animals we saw last season, because Ferguson had the same group of players, and he did deliver the Holy Grail, which is the title.
I'm gonna blow your mind and I'm gonna twist your taste buds. The flavors are already coming together. I can feel them. Very lovely, very appetizing, very healthy. Remember, the way you see it, the way you like it, is the way you get it, from my kitchen to your kitchen.
A very good morning to you, ladies and gentlemen. If you're just joining us, I'm feeling very good this morning. I don't know why. Is it my tie that is so fantastic? I don't know. You guys look nice.
You're feeling good before Arsenal play.
How are you?
But can't you allow us to get into the moment?
To enjoy,
Mr. Dakabachigongo.
The last time I let you get into the moment, Arsenal lost by 5 goals to 1. So probably I shouldn't let.
Let's talk about other things, like Valentine's, which is on Friday.
I actually think we did something very, very bad. We should have won Liverpool. Manchester may beat us, but we'll talk about that later. I'm even getting a heart attack.
we can call the doctor. She has just left.
Earlier, I asked you to share with me whether you think Obama and Beyonce had an affair. And there's some interesting comments on Facebook. I'll come into that later. But there's a rumor that the first black president of the US has been dogging on his wife, which is quite shocking.
I'm reminded of very famous words. I did not have sexual relations with that woman. Oh my goodness. Yes, with Monica Lewinsky. Oh my goodness.
We'll probably have a repeat of that, but let me know what you think. You can also send me a text to 6565, tag me on Twitter at mbgold2, at Mebkeb, at Dakabachigongo, at Joel Senyonyi, at Kasiate, at NTVUganda. Let us know what you're going to. Now to the world of sports. Volleyball. The national ladies volleyball team, they're having a trial game today ahead of the World Championship qualifiers. Is this the ideal situation you're seeing? Do they really need this game?
I think with the kind of preparations they've had, and volleyball has not been one of those sports that have been elevated to this level. They've been in Netherlands, in Groningen, for their training. And that should be very good for them. Now they're back home and have a training to do, which since they came back from Groningen towards the end of last week, they've been taking a bit of a break, and this is their first opponent really to get a feel of the game. They've been training in conditions that are wintry. That's what has been happening in Europe across the past 1 week or so. So it should be a kind of ideal situation for them to get out there and hit some balls before they travel to Kenya tomorrow. In the World Championship qualifier, like we did discuss yesterday, where there's only one place to win and there are 6 teams in that. Mozambique, Senegal, Tunisia, Cape Verde, and then Kenya, who are the African champions and by far the strongest side. And probably Uganda won't even get a chance to get into a game situation when they get to Nairobi, because they'll play the favorites, the home team, and the strongest team in Africa, that is Kenya, come Sunday. So for me, getting that kind of preparation game today at Lugogo, that's at 8 p.m. is exactly what the team needs probably to try out.
You know, I used to play volleyball and I was the captain of my team at school. Don't say I'm kidding.
How bad was that team? But the captain like you. Because last time you discussed sport on this show, you talk about how good a baseball player you are. And now today it's volleyball. What will it be tomorrow?
No, I was one of the best third basemen in this country. Wow. But that was many years ago. And I was a volleyballer. Does our team have enough spikers, you know, coming into this? Because we are going to face people that are tall. Kenyan women are quite tall.
Yeah, and for me that's the biggest problem with our DNA, because we are going to be in this competition will be some of the shortest sides. Unluckily, the team doesn't have much information about all the other teams, with the exception of Kenya. And imagine the Senegalese should be tall. because everyone in Senegal is right about 6 foot. So the things that they will struggle with for me will be height. And even when they played in the previous qualifiers, the sub-zonal qualifiers that got them here, they really struggled against the Kenyans because of the height. But in all the other situations where they could probably jump higher, and for me that's one of the things I've been told they've been doing when they were in Groningen, when they were training in Netherlands. They've been training on how high they can jump, because that leap would give you a kind of advantage if you're not 6'5", like some of the girls will be playing will be. So it's something that they've got to work on. Their strength, especially in the lower body, is something that will get them as high as possible up on the net to block and maybe hit the ball as hard as they could.
Right. Well, we wish you luck in the World Cup qualifiers. Now, Molly Biekwanso must have been watching this show yesterday because we talked about him recalling the players that had been suspended, and then he recalls them. What is going on? Spare the rod and spoil the child. Is this good for Victoria University? Is it going to be a boost for, ahead of the game?
I think it's, I feel for Mole Biekwanso. From the moment when he decided to dish these players before traveling to Congo, he put himself in quite a hole. There are players he needs. Victoria University does not have 30 or so players. Dennis Goma and Savio Kabugo and Mike Serumaga, some of their better players. He decided to recall 2 of them and didn't recall Serumaga for this one. So whatever was going to handle this, if he has them in the team, it's good for the team. When he decided to drop them, you already almost dug his grave. Because when you recall them, you're sending a very bad signal to all the other players, that players can decide to abscond from training, like Kabugo and Guma did, and then you can still recall them because the game is that important. And I feel for Victoria University that in this point in time, this is the biggest game they will ever play. They have not played a game of this magnitude. They're only a club that came into existence about 2-3 years ago. They got promoted from the big league, played in their first season in the top flight, last season, qualified for the continent. So in that kind of situation, I imagine myself sitting in Mole Biekwa's office and I'm thinking, how didn't I have done this any better? Probably the best situation is not to take the players to Congo and not give a reason for it initially last week. Now, the moment you say we're not taking them because they refuse to train, that's where the problem starts for me. Now, when you decide to recall them like he has, it's a very bad situation. Honestly, I love the players being on the pitch. That's the thing, because that's how they'll earn, and I want them to be there, and I want them to do their job. Them absconding from training is leaving their job, but then recalling them without dealing with the issues why they didn't train initially is Mole Biekwanso getting it.
Setting a bad precedent.
Very bad precedent.
Well, it's a tough one for him. But moving on to the Premier League, Chelsea yesterday dropped points at West Brom. Is that very costly? Yes, Bran, yes. Is that costly for Jose Mourinho's team?
I love being a judge. I love sitting in the middle, and I wish one of these was Man United and the other Arsenal.
No, I'm partly Chelsea, by the way.
I'm extremely unfortunate that in this country, all the football fans, probably 60% support one club. That's the Arsenal. I think 60% or more. And I think Chelsea can only get a report of how poor last night's result was after they see what Arsenal and Man City do tonight. Because ideally, they should have won their game. They led through that Branimir Ivanovic goal. I had the game sewn up for a very long time. We're on the back foot largely in the second half until Victor Anichebe got that equalizer. But there was nothing really hinting on Chelsea dropping points at a venue which they never win. And I remember telling you here yesterday that one of the things about Chelsea and West Brom games is that somehow Chelsea don't win. Now they've only won 1 of their last 5 games against West Brom. They did lose there twice last season and then the season before last. Somehow it's the kind of team, it's moving to be a bogey side. And I remember the first leg result at Stamford which went 2-2. West Brom with the better side, and then Chelsea snatched at penalty. So for me, Chelsea will look at this as 2 points drop, but they cannot sulk yet because they have to wait another 24 hours before they know how costly this result. For me, they remain top. They should be 4 points clear because for me, I thought they should have won the game. They should have done a more professional job. Even in that moment when that cross comes in from the left for Anichebe to head in. somehow they seem to have done enough to get the result. For me, that was a disappointment. That should be the disappointment for Jose Mourinho there.
But he has said before that he doesn't look at himself as a title contender. I don't know if that is just a mind game, as we talked about.
Yeah.
But he just said, oh, we're not yet there, we're not yet there. So I think it serves them right.
Even call this a little horse. Sometimes I think in football, you want to be the underdog. And for me, the thing that will get Chelsea to the league title this season is that they've been an underdog all season. No one, almost outside of Chelsea, believes they can win the league. They've done their business very quietly, very, very quietly. And for me, that is a hallmark of teams that sometimes go on and win. There's been a lot of attention to Arsenal because they've played very well.
Yes.
There's been a lot of attention to Man City because everyone thinks they have the best team and they don't lose at home. They've scored 115 goals.
Yeah.
And in that sense, everyone thinks Chelsea are third rate in this three-team horse race. So when you look at it this way, that probably serves them right, is for me they are still 2 points clear, and Arsenal haven't yet played their game.
They're playing tonight.
Yeah, and there is no guarantee that Man City will beat Sunderland. So,
but it's at home. Sunderland are visiting the Etihad, and you usually don't go there. I know I'll eat these words probably. Chelsea got a point.
Yeah.
I think they got 3 points last time. But anyway, Manchester City today hosts Sunderland.
And Man City have not beaten Sunderland since forever.
Yeah, somehow this is the kind of fixture they don't win. And actually, before losing to Chelsea, they are not beaten. The last team to beat them back in November was Sunderland. So this will be a bit of a potential banana skin. And for me, the worst thing for Manchester City is that they come into this game a bit devoid of confidence. They've not won either of their last 2 games, and they didn't even manage to score a goal. They were beaten 1-0 by Chelsea, and then thereafter, they also drew goalless with Norwich at the weekend. The goals have dried up a bit. Yaya Toure is having to carry a lot of the load with Sergio Aguero and Fernandinho out injured. And for me, I'm loving the egg on our faces. We who sit here and discuss all these sports things because just 2-3 weeks ago, we're all discussing how Chelsea is the best side in the Premier League in terms of quality. Now, without Aguero and Fernandinho, they are totally a different team. They are not the team that we thought they were strong as they were. And this is not supposed to be an excuse for them not winning this one. Probably, if they don't win tonight, then they'll look back on a season when they should have won the Premier League. And it's in moments like this that when you realize which players can really stand up to be counted. They've not won 2 games. If they don't win for a 3rd game in a row, then Man City would have a big problem in terms of winning the title.
Okay, now Arsenal hosting Manchester United. How are they going to recover from the 5, I don't even want to say it, from the loss? From the setback. How are they going to recover from the setback of last weekend?
How can you call this a mere setback? For me, I look at the 2 sides. It's a reverse of roles. In the later years of Sir Alex Ferguson, this would be a game where Arsenal would go in fighting for 4th, and Man United would go in fighting for the title. They were no longer competing for the same things. There's a roles reversal just a few months after Ferguson left the side, which is about 6 months ago. Now, I look at the 2 teams, they don't come in with a lot of confidence. That result will only feel the depth of the wound that Liverpool inflicted on Arsenal at the end of tonight. The Arsenal respond like a team that is going to win the title. If they go on and beat Manchester United, they'll have laid down a marker. If Manchester United don't go on and win this one, or probably compete like they've been the entire season, we can all go home and rest and say, probably Manchester United are not even good enough for 4th. For me, what do Arsenal do in this one? I thought on Saturday, one of the things they didn't do is defensively that midfield had a lot of spaces against Liverpool. The moment Liverpool picked the ball and counter-attack, there were no people tracking back. It's something probably Man United would love to exploit. So Arsenal have got to play much better on the back foot to win this one. But Manchester United have not given me that kind of confidence and that aura that they could go on and win a tough game like this one. There's been a lot of talk about David Moyes not being the right man, and I saw him at the press conference coming into this game last night and looked a very angry man. Looked a very angry man. I don't know what he's going to do about the kind of setup the team will put up today. But I've got to think that Manchester United have got to go into this game thinking we don't get a result tonight, 4th place is gone. Because at the same time, Liverpool will be at Craven Cottage. If Liverpool win, there could probably be double-digit lead on Manchester United. And I don't think United are going to win the league title this season. I didn't think they were even going to win the moment Alex Ferguson said he was working out. So it's that kind of game. a lot of adrenaline, I think, in this city for the game. But in terms of the targets for the two teams, not a title decide at all.
And there's, of course, a floating thing from Moyes that regardless of whatever comes out of the season, I'm not going to renew my contract. We'll wait for that. There's also a floating cartoon on the social media about Sir Alex Ferguson punishing Moyes and telling him, wait, you should pay referees for these things. But, you know, we're running out of time, but we want to quickly go through this. Some of you have given some great Facebook messages and want to be able to interact with you. Musaba Gladson Isaac saying you guys are more than serious when it comes to this show. It's definitely my breakfast proggy. Okirol, please accept that Liverpool won Arsenal 5-1. That's how sports goes on. Oh, why, Okirol? What's your problem? But I'll read these messages later. And of course, I asked you, do you think Obama and Beyonce had something? Coming up, your African proverb. African proverb today is the surface of water is beautiful, but it is not good to sleep on. Isma?
I thought the African proverb would be about Obama and Beyonce. There's been a lot of it going around lately, and I feel for Obama, by the way. The major reason is that he does play some basketball and does play some golf. Even had to fit a basketball court inside the White House lawn when he became president. The surface of water is beautiful, but not good to sleep on. Yes, you'll always drown in water, probably. And I'm not looking at water in a cup because that one wouldn't really drown anyone. Probably the water that is a lake, you'd fall in and probably get eaten by a shark. We're not in a place where the sharks are very close to us. Uganda, being landlocked and having the lake, which is the biggest, but probably among.
I think the sharks will drown in Uganda.
They'll drown. Sure.
Or the water would run out. But go on. That was very random. Please go on.
Sure. Probably one of the things like all the African proverbs we've done in the past. This is day number 8, and I'm one of those who love keeping tabs with the first day, and ever since probably it's something I should even for my relationship and know this is the first day. When this all got started, I can't remember the date. Yeah, but I think it's a very good, it's caution that probably when you look at the water, don't take it for the plain beauty, the way you see it. There's something lying underneath. And probably that's why we should treat so many things. I love it when, for example, when you're driving, you could be rushing to get somewhere, but the swiftness with which you're driving may not be necessary that however fast you drive, you'll get there. The same car that you used to get to wherever you're going is also a killing machine. You could easily die in the next moment. The same way with the water. Yeah.
Well, as we leave you this morning, a couple of your comments about Obama. Someone is saying that's impossible because Obama does not like celebrities like Beyonce.
Sure.
Yeah.
Doesn't he?
I don't know, because these celebrities have really helped him with his campaign a lot. There are lots of pictures about that are coming, you know, on the internet as far as Obama and other women. The most famous was when at the Mandela funeral and he's taking a selfie with Cameron.
I love that picture. Oh my goodness.
You know there have even been
is this
claims.
my gift?
No, this is a router.
You know there have even been claims that he's gay. You need to go and find those stories.
No, well, we shall be sued by the American government. All right, speaking of the government, before we leave, and I know my producer is killing me on this one, there's been a terrorist threat that, you know, the terrorists are working on something, so please be safe. If you see anything suspicious or anyone suspicious, report to the nearest police station. Some of you are saying our policemen are not very, go there. You can do whatever you can. Come to NTV and we'll do whatever we can so that we stay safe, okay? We don't want to lose you now or in the near future. Let's wish you a great day from Isma and the crew. Bye-bye.
NTV.
turning on your world.
Marriage is tough, but you suck it up and you stick through the good times and the bad times. What kind of example are you setting for your sister who is about to walk down the aisle herself?
Shut up, Nandi. Seriously, you just keep poking and poking at other people's relationships. You're like a cancer.
Ati, I hope you're discussing fashion. Because you have everything under control, yes? And the only crisis we're going to have is you clashing with the red carpet.
We've made mistakes. And that's what marriage is all about. Mistakes and forgiveness. For better or for worse.
I'm sorry, but I've got to ask.
Nothing happened between me and Lucia.
Well, Lulu is not here, and if she comes, I'll let her know you're here.
You picked the wrong person to mess with, Lucy.
On the next episode of Men.
A lot of research shows that money is a key issue where stability in marriages is concerned. How are the roles managed? How are they shared?
We've over-monetized
relationships,
life in general, and it has become